So you might be wondering why there's a picture of sweetness on the front of the bulletin. I promise I'm going to get to that. I promise I'm going to get to the reason why we chose to put a picture of Walter Payton on the front of the bulletin for this week. It's all Renee's fault. It's all Renee's fault because she picked this song, "What You Gonna Preach by the Way You Live?" And it's just one of those songs that gets in your head and you can't get it out of there. And if you didn't pick it up, it's a song challenging us to think about how we're living our lives and the fact that each and every one of us preaches every single solitary day, whether we know it or not. We preach something out into this world, maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing. And that's what brings me to the picture of sweetness on the front of this bulletin. Because ever since we started rehearsing that song, it's been stuck in my head, and I've been thinking about how is it that I've been preaching for the last few years of my life. I passed my 10th anniversary at St. Paul here in May. I passed my 6th anniversary of ordination in September. And in January of 2017, I will pass my 20th anniversary of being in ministry. So when you sit and you look at that, I think to myself, oh my God, I've been saying a lot. Have I been saying the right thing? And one time, it occurred to me that one time, there was this time when I did not live what I said that I preached. And it has to do with Walter Payton. In another church that I served, a girl who was a big Bears fan. Now, I have to tell you, I'm not the greatest Bears fan in the world. I'm really not. I liked the Bears when I was a little kid, but you know, I'm headed more toward the Green Bay side of it most of the time. But I love the Cubbies! Woohoo! I love the Cubbies. And I'm telling you, I'm wishing I had that Cubbies shirt on right now because I'm really hot. I don't know about you all, but I'm really hot in here. And I tend to like the New Orleans Saints quite a bit. But there was this time in my ministry when a girl came to me and she said, "Do you know that Walter Payton has just been diagnosed with cancer?" And I was aware of it. Walter Payton had first an autoimmune disorder that will cause cancer in 10% of the patients, and just by the luck of the draw, Walter Payton ended up with the cancer. And she said, "You know what, there are a lot of Bears fans in this congregation. How about I make a big card on poster board, and during coffee fellowship, we'll sign that card. People can sign that card and send him wishes." And I'm like, I think that's a great idea. I think that's a wonderful idea. Isn't that what we're supposed to do as people of faith? Even though we didn't really personally know Walter Payton, hadn't all of our lives in some way or another been exposed to the life of Walter Payton? I'm like, I think that's a wonderful idea. About 3 days later, after she had already made the card, and she had gone out and got special blue and orange markers and made this beautiful card out of poster board. About 3 days later, I think my microphone just went. I got a visit from the other pastor, who was my superior. And he came and he sat down in my office and said, "I need to talk to you about something really tough." And I'm like, oh God, what did I do now? And he says, "You know this little thing about the card for Walter Payton?" And I said, "Yeah, isn't that great? She's going to set it up at coffee hour and everybody can sign it." He goes, "No, that's not so great." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "We don't do that as the church." And I said, "Huh?" And he said, "We don't participate in that secular sort of stuff as the church." And I'm like, "But she's already gone to the trouble of this. She's been talking to people about it. What's the harm of sending a card of support and love to Walter Payton?" And he said to me, I kid you not, he's got enough money, he doesn't need our sympathy. So, I just sat there. And that pastor went back to his office, and he called her on the phone and told her that there was not any way it was possible for us to have that card at Coffee Fellowship. and sign it and send it off to Walter Payton's family. I preached a sermon that day I never, ever, ever want to preach again. Because you see, what I did in that moment was I agreed with something that I knew deep in my heart was not right. I knew that our job as Christians is to give compassion and to give support and to give love. Even if we don't know the person, or even if the person in front of us we despise, or even if the person in the world makes so much money that it makes us uncomfortable. But I went along with it. I preached a sermon that day to that girl that said, we're not going to truly be Christians in this particular instance. And I thought back over my life and thought about the times when I've preached that type of sermon in other ways. In the times when I have, with my good old boys in Milwaukee, Illinois, listened and laughed at their racist jokes. Or when I have not stood up when I've heard somebody downgrading some of my friends that are gay. Or when I have listened to other folks, or when I have actively not helped in a situation where I knew injustice was being visited upon someone. Every single solitary time that each one of us does not stand up for what we believe that Christ is teaching us to do, the message of our lives is, we don't really believe in that. We're just saying it because it's what we do. That's, you see, what the Scripture is all about today. The Scripture about the whitewashed tombs, you don't hardly ever hear that in churches, do you? It's not in the lectionary, so if you're in a lectionary cycle church, you're not going to hear it. And the only reason why I can come up with that we don't hear that on a regular basis is because of the fact that it's a really harsh Scripture. It's a really harsh portion of the gospel where Jesus is turning to the religious powers that were in charge at the time, saying to them, you are like whitewashed tombs. Everything inside of you is dead. Because you see, in Jesus' time, they would whitewash the tombs in the area so people knew not to go near them, not to go around them, because what was inside was dead. And if you, as a good Jewish person at that time, if you went inside of a tomb and touched those dead bones inside of there, you were unclean. So they made sure that it was easy for people to understand that that whitewashing meant stay away. And Jesus turned and he told the religious leaders of the time, you are just like those tombs. You are whitewashed sepulchres. You look beautiful on the outside. But inside, you're not housing anything of life. That Scripture for us illustrates those times when all of us stand by and say one thing and act a different way. See, I told you it was all Renee's fault because that song has been working on me about that thought process, about that idea that we live our lives in one way, say it in a different way, and many times that doesn't come together and gel. Many times what we put out in our language is not what we really are doing. So I use this scripture today because that song has been working on me, and I wanted to stand here and say, I even get caught in not acting and doing the way that I tell you that I should be acting and doing in this world. It's so subtle, you see. It's so very subtle that we can get off the track between acting and saying and then not acting and still saying. Sometimes we don't even know about it. Sometimes we don't even know that we're doing it. So this song that the choir sang today, this What You're Going to Preach by the Way That You Live, that for me has become a standard song. something that challenges me to continue to think and to examine and to be brutally honest with myself about whether or not I'm practicing what I preach. Last night, some of you might know that I said, I think I used a few four-letter words when Montero hit that grand slam home run. Now, that's not what I'm kind of talking about. I'm not kind of talking about the fact that somebody might cuss or somebody might slip up and say something that is hurtful to someone else. I'm talking about when we go out into the world and say, I'm a Christian, and yet when people look at us, our actions are anything but Christian. When we go out into the world and we proclaim, I love Jesus, but guess what? I don't want that Muslim living next door to me. Or, I love Jesus, but I don't want my child to be gay. I love Jesus, but I'm not going to give any extra money to those people who are poor and it's all their own problem that they're poor. You see, they don't mix together. They don't go with what the book tells us about how to live our lives as Christian people. And I'll admit to you today that I am the worst person to get off track. Because some days, what I really want is for God to do it my way. The Cubs. We all have to be challenged, fellas. We all have to be challenged by this scripture. Because as I told the children this morning, being a Christian, a follower of Jesus, is not easy, and it gets harder and harder and harder as we go along. All of us are challenged, and this is my challenge to all of us, including myself. All of us are challenged to continually ask ourselves, are we truly living that gospel, that good news? Are we truly the ones who have been anointed by God to preach, proclaim, and go out into this world and practice? Are we truly the ones who act in the way we say we do? That's our challenge this week. I've got extra candy up here if that's going to be a hard one for you. The sugar guy might help a little bit. But we must do these things. This is not something that we can let go by, because as we are living, we are seeing every day the examples in this world of people saying they're Christian, and then yet they're ready to pull a gun on someone. Saying that they love Jesus, and yet they don't want to support the poor. Saying that they believe in the book, and yet everything they do has nothing to do with it. So I'm going to wrap it up because there's cake downstairs, and I want you all to have some of that cake. But I do want us all to go home this week and think about what you're going to preach on the life you live. What you're going to give to the people you love and the people you meet. What is the sermon that you're going to preach? Amen. We come now to the time in our worship service when we have